main topic real quick.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All
What you
right.
got? What you got? What you got, Neo?
Yeah, I've got this one. I've got this full. Uh,
Woo! Woo!
this full. So,
I mean, what
all
are we
right.
talking about? The chicken neck? We talking about the chicken neck? Is that
We
what we're
talk.
talking about
Yeah,
now?
we're talking about the chicken neck. So, this past Wednesday, in the Senate, Republicans in the Senate blocked the Freedom to Vote John Lewis Act, which would have made voting more accessible across the nation. At a press conference after it failed, reporter Pablo Manriquez asked the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, about the impact and concerns of voters of color. Wait, I may need to enunciate a little better. Mitch McConnell, sorry, Mitch McConnell. And here's what he said, quote, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just a higher percentage as Americans. Now, the great poet and author Toni Morrison once said, in this country, American means white. Everybody else has to hyphenate. So my question to you guys is really simple. Was she right? Let's start with Rob.
I think it's indicative because, when I stop and think about it, we don't have that many hyphens in Canada. I mean, there are groups that choose to identify differently, but we don't label it. We're Canadian. It's pretty much as simple as that. And I guess it's not the first time that Mitch McConnell has made statements that are a little problematic when it comes to racial sensitivity, if you will. And then I take a look at it and kind of go, this is a 79-year-old man. And just a few weeks ago, we were discussing whether or not there should be some kind of cap on when people stop serving. Just because you're from a different era at that point. You may have some old ideas that are ingrained and they come out subconsciously. So it's I don't think it was a very deliberate thing to say, but it sure was a dumb thing to say.
Yeah. Tiani Storm.
That's funny because I was actually gonna bring that up too, Rob. Like when we talked about it a few weeks ago, and I remember calling. I don't think it was that same episode, but I remember calling them old farts at one point because it's like they have this old, outdated method, like mindset. So sometimes, even though they kind of have developed into the new times, they still say things that are like, okay, he still thinks we're this type of way. So it's just interesting. I Actually, I don't even remember the question. What was the question?
So, the question is, the question was, so in this country, American means white. Everybody else has to hyphenate. Was Toni Morrison correct?
Still yes. My answer is still yes.
Oh, so that's what it means. All right.
Everybody else does still have to hyphenate. Yes.
And okay, Lizzie, real quick.
Duh.
Because I have a follow up. Duh. You so duh. All right. So
Duh.
okay. So then the other question is how do we
finished.
change it? How do we change it?
I wasn't
So
finished.
go ahead. So how do we change it as well?
Oh.
We're not the majority in this country, so I'm not sure we can change it. We're not the majority in our government. We're not the majority in business. We're not the majority in the population. So I'm not sure we can change it. Like if you look at a lot of these incidents that have happened or that have been posted on social media over the past 2 years or whatever, when people are saying, go back to your country, go back to where you came from, they're not saying that to white people.
You mean
They're saying
Americans?
that to
Americans?
Americans, yes, in America. We're talking about America, not Canada. I don't know what's going on in Canada.
No, I
In
mean
America, they're
no,
not.
Americans, white people.
It-
Quote
it-
Americans.
yes. People
They're
of
not
Asian
telling.
descent have endured that during the pandemic. It hasn't been pretty in Canada for
But here in this
people of Asian
country,
descent.
they're not talking to white
Yeah.
people. They're talking to everybody else that needs a hyphen to prove their nationalism, to prove their status. And think about it. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 wasn't written to protect white folks and their right to vote. The 24th Amendment, which abolished poll taxes for voting, wasn't for white people. This was all for Black people. We had to write things in our government, in our Constitution, to protect Black people and their right to vote. So, of course, Toni Morrison is right. We're an afterthought, we're an other as it relates to government, as it relates to Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell, his wife is Taiwanese. You don't hear him talking about, oh, well, Taiwanese people have the right to vote just as much as other Americans. What?
So,
You don't hear him saying that.
so the other thing that the reporter actually asked referred to people of color, not necessarily Black people. But of course, Mitch McConnell was like, African Americans and comparing Black and white. But if you really look at it, people of color includes Latinos, Indigenous people, various immigrated
That's what I'm
citizens.
saying.
So,
That's
I
what
mean,
I'm saying.
you said white people are the majority. I don't know that that's truly the case, because for one, if we're talking about like one drop of blood makes you Black, for example, then I don't think there's very few white people that don't have a drop of blood that's not some
Neil,
other
I'm going by the
person of
the
color.
consensus. I'm not going by what you think. I'm going by the registered consensus. Okay.
So,
What
so
the
you
They're more.
population demographic is in this country, and white people, out of the 70 million people in this country, of people
who identify as white,
who identify
because a
as
lot
white,
of
but who
passing
also
people
live.
too.
But we're not talking about them. Like, we didn't just all of a sudden, come to this, okay, white people are a minority. That's what they want you to think here. So don't feed into that argument. White folks are still the majority in this
Yeah.
country. I'm not saying an overwhelming
There's no
majority,
question.
but a majority nonetheless. And even if you think they are some type of minority, they are not. They are the governing
That's
body
not
in
what
this
I'm
country.
saying. That's certainly
They are
not
the
what I'm saying.
governing they are the governing body in this country. And so, of course, you have all of the, like Mitch, he racist. You have all of these people, in Congress, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, former president from, a year and a half ago, who are just now taking their sheets off. People are feeling comfortable now in this country, walking around with no sheets on, talking a whole lot of bullshit. And so that's why I agree with Toni Morrison as it relates to who's in power and in charge in this country. Yeah, we're an afterthought. We're hyphenated. And it's gonna take a
It's
we were that even under Obama. Even under Obama. Like Mitch
Do
McConnell
you think that?
challenged everything that Obama tried to do for this country. Every single thing, from the rooter to the tutor. So yeah, it's not something that I think we're going to see in our lifetime. This type of change where we are on level playing field.
Level ground.
Say, I just want to actually look at a comment from Jacqueline Robinson, who says the new census shows that Caucasians will be a minority in a few more years, and these laws are a violent reaction to that.
Yep.
I can see that.
And I think it's relevant to what we're saying.
It's exactly.
I think it depends, though, again, because that may be true as it relates to the census, but they won't be a minority where it counts. They won't be a minority when
In
it comes to
representation.
government, when it comes to business, when it comes to representation.
So that was going to be my next question. Do you think, how could that change happen? Like, I know it may not be in our lifetime, but in the next couple of generations, what would that look like? Would it look like more people of color in charge, and that kind of changes things by us being in
Well,
charge
one,
and us being
people need to fucking vote. Like that, first and foremost, people need to vote. They need to get involved in the democracy that we have here, in the democratic process that we have here. I'm not talking about just voting for president. You need to vote at the local level. You need to vote in the elections that happen every year, every
Local
2
level
years,
voting is
every
far
4.
more important than people
Oh my
realize.
gosh,
Mhm.
100%.
because
100%.
it's
It may
weird.
impact whether or not
Politics
critical
actually
race
trickles
theory is
up
being
more
taught
than you
where
think it
are.
does. Politics actually trickles up more than you think it does.
Yeah.
Because if once you start building constituents locally, it grows out of that. It's almost like it's very different than like economics, for example, or it's very, or like if you're in your job, the manager kind of sets the tone and everybody kind of follows that. It's different in politics. It's almost like a growth. You can grow politics, but right now, they're owning the local the local elections right now. I mean, and that's
I
how
know a young
that's how they're
lady.
going to win the midterms is by focusing on those local elections.
I know a young lady who built her social media platform on bitching about everything in her city, in her state, in federal government or whatever. Bitching, 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 upset about this, upset about that. But she is not a registered voter.
It's bullshit.
And so I'm
This
just like,
pisses me off
and
every
I'm
time
like,
I
well
hear that shit.
then don't talk to me because you're not
Yeah.
doing something effective that can change the things that you are bitching about.
Yeah.
So
Other
don't
than
talk to me. I don't
speech,
want to hear
yeah,
it.
you need
I
to
don't want to hear
walk
it.
the walk. You need
There's
to
some
You're
walk
like a
the walk.
TV show at this point. I don't want to hear it.
There's
I
a
don't wanna hear it.
lot of comments on this that we need to get to because we're out of time. Jeanette Brown says, "Ooh, I pity the Taiwanese woman who married him."
Elaine Chow, I think her name is.
Yeah,
Elaine Chow, I
Oh
think her
my.
name is.
I met her a while ago, and her thinking is not far off from his. So, a day says you can always expect to hear stuff like this from a white supremacist. Latoya says, "Bruh, it's not like we all don't know they're racist pieces of shit anyway." Mike Winter, these fools just wear their hoods and robes and a Confederate flag pinned to the Capitol.
And they're bold now. And they're bold now. And let me just say this because I think a lot of times when we talk about um, white supremacists or the Republican Party, that people think that we are anti-white. And I am far from it. I am talking about a specific segment of our population that does not have my best interest, does not have Neo's best interest, doesn't even have honestly Rob B's best because he's an immigrant. If he came here, he would be an immigrant. Speaking French,
Yeah.
they'd be like, I don't know, bruh. Are you
A,
white enough?
a
Are you white enough
Boyega,
to speak another language?
Boyega says, hashtag bitch McConnell, hashtag Mitch
I wasn't
please,
gonna say it.
Mitch, please.
Moscow, Mitch. I like Mitch, please though. I like
Mitch
Mitch,
please.
please.
Latoya says, I'm not really surprised this Jurassic tortoise would do or say some shit like this, but it's no less infuriating. Fuck him.
But then Neo, you didn't bring up how he tried to backtrack from it
Oh
and
yeah,
brought up the
Daria Winter
fact
was
that
pointing that out. I was just gonna read Daria
when
Winter's
he was
comment
in
on
I
it.
thought you were gonna
college,
bring that up.
when he was in college, he was at the March on Washington. Boy, okay, so you got a black friend. You thought y'all were gonna go and march on Washington.
One of the
Okay,
past.
were you one of the snipers? Were you one of the snipers that were trying to get MLK?
Probably,
Like, why were
actually.
you there? Why were you there?
Daria Winter says,
In 2019, when he was asked about his position on reparations for slavery, part of his response was, "Well, we've elected an African American president. Like that makes it right."
yes, all of a sudden. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, well, we elected Barack. We're good.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Right.
We're even.
Daria
Barack
Winter
was like,
says,
keep my name out of your mouth. Keep my name out of your mouth.
Daria Winter said, the 1970s black folk did just that. Grassroots organizing had us elevated politically across the country. Study history. Yes,
Yep.
start locally.
100.
All right, is this truth, lies, or
Lies,
shenanigans?
shenanigans.
Come on now.
It's
Okay,
All
I'm
shenanigans
sorry,
today.
y'all.
It's all
I
shenanigans.
mean, he said it, so there's some truth in that, but
So
Yeah,
shenanigans.
that's how we
Johnny's got
feel.
shenanigans. Okay.
And like
Truth and
Justin Robinson
shenanigans
said
from
on
Ryan.
on Facebook, on our Facebook page, this was not a Freudian slip.
Oh
Nah.
no, he knew it. I mean, it's just that's who he is. That's
how
exactly
we
it.
talk.
All right.
It's not his first time public speaking. This is how he feels.
Yeah.
How he feels.
No question. All right. Let's get into our game.